Welcome to the 145th broadcast of the T-Row Show. It's your host, Keith. I got John with me.
Good morning, folks.
All right, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about money. I got some information from the little older information. It's coming from the PAGs, and we're going to talk about the first part. Probably won't talk about the second part of the remedy because I think we've already got that remedy. But anyways, let's talk about a little bit about the money. We've got the new Continental dollar has the grafted in symbol on it. And then you've got the other dollar, the U.S. dollar, which is it's got the Illuminati symbol on it. So you're seeing black and white, yin and yang, the whole deal, right? And we're not the black part, we're the white part, and they're the dark part. So I'm going to show you just one major difference that has caused every one of your problems. I'll give you an example. One lady was asking me, a lot of times these problems are very small, and this is what we spent how many years, 4 or 5 years, finding a needle in a stack of needles, John?
Yeah, it's been between 4 and 5 years since we first started out with the Continental dollars.
Right, plus the back in 2011, 12, when we started going into all this stuff with the Articles of Confederation, the United States of America. And of course, a lot of people have tried to twist the facts because they can't face the fact that they got their blast. But neither here nor there. A lot of this stuff is just. I'll give you an example. I was at a bowling alley years ago, and this woman had the worst. Looked like she was having an epileptic fit when she was bowling. It went in the gutter every time. It was like, what the hell is that? Okay, that's the weirdest thing you've ever seen in your life. And she wanted me to help her bowl. So I said, okay. I said, just bowl a few, So I watched her and bowl a couple. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I said, why don't you move your hand and your arm? You got your arm twisted this way. Just twist it this way 2 inches. So we did. I just grabbed it and twisted it a little bit, 2 inches. I said, now, when the ball leaves your hand, make sure that your hand is faced in that direction, right there. She said, okay. So she went, did it. She got a strike. That was it. Her bowling, a score went from 20 to 150. I didn't change everything else. I just changed that one little thing. Okay. Now that's usually that's the tactic of what you and everybody else and I would know about is the devil. That would be the tactic. That's how he operates. He doesn't change everything. You don't notice everything. It's just a little thing. Little teeny thing that would make it go off the rails or make it not work. Okay, so here's the little thing. The Continental dollar, the similarities are the Continental dollar is printed. The USD is printed. We clear there? All right. A bank issues the Continental dollar. A bank issues the Federal Reserve note. The Continental dollar is backed by the well, I'll tell you what, let's just go to this direction. It is backed by something, but I'm not going to go in that direction. I'm going to go in another direction just to show what I'm talking about. Because then we get all these people start arguing and crap, and then they try to discredit because they can't face the fact that their remedy is here, and they thought it would happen another way. Okay, so the difference is when the USD comes into existence, it is borrowed into existence by somebody. When the Continental dollar comes into existence, it is labored into existence by someone. There's a big difference there. It's a very small difference, little teeny tweak, a little move of the hand to the left 2 inches. It's a small one, but it makes all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. One is based on you owe me. The other one is based on I paid you. Here, I'm going to pay you. Believe it or not, people are very kind and considerate with their money here, especially if we're doing any trade or moving things back and forth, and they don't really care. It doesn't really matter. Because money's not the main thing. However, over on the other side, money's everything. Would you say that, John? Is everything? Pretty much everything?
I'd say it's pretty much everything. It's actually needed to make life livable.
Right. So people think about it all the time. They don't think about their creator and they don't think about their existence. They're thinking about money all the time because that's what you're taught to think all the time. Because I got to pay this back. I got to get this paid for. I got to pay this back. I got to pay this back. Well, I got to pay the taxes this year. I got to do this. I got to do that. Okay. Now, one is labored into existence. In other words, somebody does some work and all of a sudden it's in existence. It's there, which is a representation that they did some labor for somebody and therefore now they have it stored. In other words, in the medium of exchange, they can go and give it to somebody else for a product or whatever they do. No big deal. The other is borrowed into existence with interest on top of that, which means the money that's in existence is in fact fiat. It's not backed by anything, not even backed by labor yet. So every mortgage that you sign is not backed by labor. So that's considered fraud. You signed it. You committed the fraud. The bank never signed a thing. You signed it. So you can't blame the bank for what you did. They go right to, right to court and start taking it, and you're yelling, and it'll take 8 months or 10 months or 12 months, sometimes 7 years to get you out of there. I'm not letting this go. You're grabbing the walls and everything else. Rather than if you see, we always said if you see yourself getting behind, or you're going to be getting behind soon, just sell it and move on. It's just a house, it's just a box. It's not going to last more than 30 years anyways. They're built not to last more than 30 years. Okay, so just realize that. You ever seen shows like Fixer Upper? Most of them anywhere from 30 to 50 years old. They're not built to last that long. And that's so you'll go back into the money creation debt issue. Okay, and on the continental dollar, it doesn't work that way. It all is labored into existence. So you have what, over 3,000 governments, 50 more on top of that, and one gargantuan corporation. Okay, now I use the term governments loosely. Okay, because you have to have a social compact to form those governments, and they don't have any of that. So I'm using that loosely, that term, just for communication, translation purposes. What I mean by that is you have all these local organizations calling themselves governments. And there's over 3,000 of them. It's an enormous amount of local monopolies. Let's put it that way. And you have 50 in the state level on top of that. Then you got one federal level on top of that. That's a lot of freaking organizations that steal from you, that take your money, that you borrowed into existence, by the way. So you basically borrowed it into existence. Somebody worked for it somewhere. They gave it to you, and you say, I got to pay my bills, blah, blah, blah. And you get taxed when you get it in your pocket. Somebody takes something from it, okay? When you get it in your pocket. Then everywhere you go, more gets taken out everywhere you go. So some of these, they have like sales tax, which is 8 to 10%. So you have the state with their handout, then you have a local with their handout, then you got property taxes and all this other stuff. So if you really start thinking about it, you borrow it into existence, and then you're only really able to enjoy about what, John, 30% of it, maybe? I'd say The tax rate's
I'll,
what, 70% by now?
yeah, about 75% goes out for taxes or better.
Right.
By the time you figure insurance and car tags and gasoline tax, road tax, tax on top of tax, it eats it up. You get about 15 to 20% actually living money out of it.
Right. Because their whole system is based on you owe me. That's the whole system. It's all based on it. Although a real national government, which is the government of the United States of America, doesn't doesn't tax you at all. Now, how do we support that? Well, it's labored into existence. So all the people that you have within this government, we get paid. We labor it into existence. We don't borrow it. And there's no interest. So the government of the United States of America doesn't take from you at all. Not one thing does it take from you. It's self-sustaining. Go figure, right? Self-sustaining. You would think that over 3,000 of these local monopolies and 50 of these state jokes that we have there, and then one federal joke. That's the biggest federal joke on the planet, by the way, and everybody's laughing at them because they're moving over to communism. They haven't figured that out. So you're talking 50 to 70 to maybe 90,000 people that have not figured that out. Okay, so if you can't figure that little simple thing out, how are you running a country? Or are you just doing what you're told? Somebody tells you to do something, you do it. And that's what I think more likely what's going on. I think they're just employees, not real leaders. I don't think any of the mayors really have any ideas. I think they're just told what the ideas are going to be, and that's it. Then they do it and they go and sell it and all that stuff. I believe we're looking at a lot of salesmen. You know, if you ever talk to a cop and say, "Why are you guys out here in your military crap?" Well, don't you want to be safe? No, I would rather live in the wild than be safe under that. Okay, so keep your safety, move on. Your service of safety is not considered safety to anybody. All right, so let's not get into the political crap. But what I'm saying here is this: if you borrow money into existence and then collect interest on top of it, you never print that interest, somebody's going to go into foreclosure. If you never print it, you got to get that money from somewhere. So you have these ups and downs all the time. You have these balloons, and then they pop, and then the balloons and pop. So it's constant, every day and every week. It's like dealing with somebody who is addicted to drama. So they always got to cause some kind of drama all the time. Every day, there's always some kind of crap going on. They can't just, the peace drives them nuts. So they're real peaceful, and all of a sudden they need a drama. They need this, they need that. All of a sudden, this big thing going on, and then back down again, and up and down, up and down. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with communist bankers that are addicted to drama. They love it. They want to use their power against somebody or destroy them or whatever, just to remind everybody that they have power. So they use this debt system. So basically, what we could do is if they all went to the continental dollar, all of those local monopolies would stop being monopolies. All the state governments would stop whining and bitching, complaining about taxes and collecting them and all that, because I think it's over 80% of the statutes are based on collecting taxes. So they will spend $1 to collect a dime. It's unbelievable, the greed. I mean, unbelievable. And the federal's a joke also. Well, if the money was labored into existence, the labor was performed, the money was given. It could be printed, it could be given into a check, digits, doesn't matter. Then all of those governments, I would call them governments then, right now they're just leeches. All of those governments would enhance the country, would help. because you would want that government in your economy because that would help you sell your stuff. That would get more of the money going around in a circle. So everybody has some money. Instead of you've got a wide range, you've got some people that don't have squat and other peoples that have all of it. They basically stole from all the people that don't have squat. And then they're looked down upon as oh, those are the poor. And I say, no, they're not poor at all. They were theft victims. Everybody stole from them. And then when you're stealing from people and they know it and there's no justice, they all become dysfunctional. They fight, they take it out on each other. There's no justice. And everybody knows, and you can see this all around the country, that justice is being withheld from everyone. So somebody's agitating you to violence, just so everyone knows that. That is being done to you on purpose. You're being agitated to violence. Rumsfeld used to be an agitator. He would operate as an agitator. He knew how to agitate people into violence. It was a special skill he had, Donald Rumsfeld. So you are being agitated to violence. You are being manipulated to violence. They want you to make sure that once they agitate you to violence, then they can turn it around and say, okay, see, they can't regulate themselves. They're barbarians, animals, which in some points they won't be right. However, majority, no, you're being manipulated that way so they can show the rest of the world why they had to bring the United Nations in here. That's why. They have to show the rest of the world that. That's been the plan for how long, John? Since the 90s or 80s?
The United Nations came in 1948.
Right, but the plan was to get the UN into the states. That's where they were going with this
Yep.
all the time.
Yep.
And so they have to get the people to go to violence, and everything has to crumble so the UN can save the day. You know, they come in all they with all right, we're here to help. When the UN guys are the worst. They don't actually help. What they do is they walk in with their supplies and they sell it to people that need the supplies. They don't give it away, they're selling it. So always remember that. UN is the most corrupt organization on the planet. It's enormously corrupt. So that being said, we can show you what just came from the PAGs. We'll show you what was found, I guess, by them. We know it's older information. We're going to show you a different kind of point of view on that. However, just remember there is a difference between labor back that comes into existence that way and USD that is borrowed into existence. And USD and cryptocurrency doesn't really fly with each other because one is mined into existence and the other one is borrowed into existence. So people are mining this crypto into existence, which is the same as laboring it into existence. Same difference. They just relabeled it something else. It's basically labor-backed. Crypto is labor-backed currency. That's all it is. Because it takes work to put it into existence, which would be more in harmony with the continental dollar, wouldn't it? So those guys that borrow money into existence or lend money into existence, which means they always have to have what? They have to have a war. They have to have something that makes you need the money. There always has to be some kind of crisis, and their money will fix the problem. They're here to save the day, you know. Their money will fix the problem every single time Congress come out. The U.S. Congress comes out with that. Oh, we'll just throw money at it. It'll work. Or borrow more money and we'll save the day. That's a training op, by the way, to keep you thinking that borrowing more money will save your life, and going into debt is success. The more you are in debt, the more successful you are. It's the craziest thing I ever heard, but that's what they do, and they try to sell that. Okay, so I think the crypto and the continental, in order to keep the crypto honest and to create a safe haven for crypto, we've come up with a strategy I think is going to work with the continental dollar and the crypto, where we keep it to where you can convert it to cash and that type of deal, back and forth, which keeps the crypto honest, which means that they can't shut your stuff down and stop you from operating with your money. They don't have full control over it, that kind of deal. And there's a lot of other benefits to it. We're gonna go. We can actually introduce the club now, couldn't we, John? So in case we used it and somebody else jumps in,
Yes, we should go ahead. You've already brought it up.
tries to steal it like they always do.
You've already brought it up. You better go ahead and put it in place.
All right, it would be called the Continental Club. Okay, we're going to create a club to do this, and we have a whole process put together as to how this can work. And yes, it's being done as a club rather than the government, to keep government out of things. And we're going to use the continental dollar to back and or where the crypto can be converted into cash. This will bring more people to the crypto world because the cash can act as an insurance policy, can act as an insurance for people that don't trust crypto. Because right now, if you have a crypto wallet and somebody figures out your password, they can come in and get your stuff anytime. And then that's it. They're done. But if you don't have crypto online and you have it in cash and then you can use the crypto when you want or need it to transfer from here to there on somebody else that wants it, or if you're buying something from somebody, now you got a different point of view there. And if it's not taxable, that's something else. So say you get, say the continental dollar is used also in cash, where somebody else wants crypto, and they can convert that cash into crypto. So no big deal by taking it. They don't have to really convert it into the crypto because it's more vulnerable online. So why not just keep it in cash until you need it? Makes more sense that way. And I think it'll be a no loss situation. I think we need to marry these two things to get them keep the crypto honest, and people using more of a national currency that is labored into existence and not borrowed into existence. That's why we have the voucher, the labor voucher, and all that. Anyways, what happens is that when you borrow something into existence, the court system takes advantage of that, and we also have a remedy for that situation. So we're not taking credit for this. This just happens to fall in our lap by others. We don't agree. We read the whole thing. We don't agree with the remedy, but we do agree with the process. So I'm just going to read this to you. Further below are checks of forms, numbers, and registry and congressional records supporting this. Okay, that is true. I will show you that. Let's go all the way down here. Here are the forms and registries and links and everything that back what's going on. Okay, it's basically the Code of Federal Regulations and all that stuff. All right. Now, when you go into the courtroom after you're arrested, they use two different sets of bonds. What they do when you're arrested, they fill out a bid bond. The United States District Court uses 273, 274, and 275 SF equals standard form 273, and standard form 274, and standard form 275. This is the United States District Court. Everyone should have a copy of the bid bond. All right. Anybody ever get copies of the bid bond? No. Never happens. The performance bond is SF25. The payment bond is SF25A and put out by the GSA, as General Services Administration. I believe that's what it's called. Okay, so what they are doing with these bonds, what are they doing with them? So what's going on in the courtroom is they are suing you for a debt collection. If you look at these bonds every day, every one of these bonds, the bid bond, the performance bond, the payment bond, all have a penal sum attached to it. The penal sum is if you don't pay the debt, you go into default judgment. Okay, so if you're being charged with a crime, and this is going to show what they actually are doing here. If you're being charged with a crime, you don't have an indictment. There's no indictment. You're looking at bills of attainder. That's really what's happening. All this falls under bills of attainder. So, if there's no indictment, they're charging you with a crime, bills of attainder. But they're saying they're all actually civil. Still bill of attainder. Attainder, either way you look at it. Okay, so that is what is going on in the courtroom. That is why all these guys are sitting in prison wondering what's going on. You go in, argue jurisdiction, and refuse to answer questions then that the judge or the court addresses to you. They will find you in contempt of court, and they will put you in jail. That's pretty much what happens. Don't think you're going to be pulled out of there, and everybody's carrying you on their shoulders for and glorious victory. It doesn't work that way. It's a setup. It works against you. Okay, so imagine being in a country that you live in, and when you go to court, which should be the source of justice, is not the source of justice. It's the people that you have to fight because they're attacking you. Imagine that. Imagine living in a country like that. That's a nightmare, isn't it? So people aren't really afraid of courts and police because they respect them because they believe that they're honest. They're afraid of them because you're looking at thugs in uniforms, in suits, in ties, because they're attacking you to steal your money. And somehow this has become socially accepted that it's okay to do that. I remember when one of those cops, who was actually paid, by the way, he got paid lifetime compensation for murdering a guy in a hallway. And a lot of the comments were, well, he didn't do what the police said, so he deserved it. You got to be kidding me. He didn't do what the police told him, so he deserved to be murdered. When, a matter of fact, he was doing what the police told him. It was in a hotel, I think. He was showing off there was a gun he had in there. It was some kind of gun he would shoot rats with, as a pellet gun, I think. And that was it. Somebody called it in, and one of the guys went and shot him, killed him. Okay, so either way, once they get the default judgment on you is because of your failure to pay the debt. They put you in prison. The attorneys are there to create a smokescreen. So I've noticed this about the attorneys. They all lie. They're constantly lying, but they're actors. Every one of them. What attorneys have been trained to do is to lead you into dishonor or default judgment. Then the courts, the court puts you into prison. Then they sell your default judgment. Who do they sell it to? Believe it or not, it's the U.S. District Court buys all of these state court judgments. I don't know why no one has found this out before. It says there are about 300 reinsurance companies that buy these bonds. They are all insurance companies. These are the people that are buying these bonds when you go when you went into default judgment, and they cannot buy these bonds unless they are certified by the Secretary of the Treasury. So guess what? Your Secretary of the Treasury screws you constantly. That's the source of your problem right there, basically. It's the Secretary of the Treasury. They're constantly just bending you over. They're bending over your people. They are the what? The traitors in your country. That's what they are. They're traitors. What they're doing with these bonds, what are they doing with these bonds? They have regulations governing these bonds. There are 2,000 regulations governing, okay? Commercial paper, negotiable instruments, anything you put your signature on is a negotiable instrument under the Uniform Commercial Code, which is the Lex Mercantorium. It's mercantile civil law. Okay, the reason why they use Lex Mercantorium in the courtroom is because every one of you are merchants at law, and merchants at law is anyone who holds themselves out to be an expert. Okay, now merchants at law means you're working in equity. Okay, when you're in law, that's court of law. That's a law court. Then you have an equity court. Okay, because you use commercial paper on a daily basis, you're considered to be an expert. Don't really know about that, but we'll see. You know, that part I'm a little iffy about. This is also why they're not telling you what is really going on in the courtroom. You are presumed to know this stuff because you hold yourself out to be an expert by using commercial paper every day. Okay, that's open for debate. Every time you put your signature on a piece of paper, you're creating a negotiable instrument. Some are non-negotiable and some are negotiable. Every time you endorse something, you are acting as an accommodation party or an accommodation maker under UCC 3-419. Okay, you can look that up. An accommodation party is anyone who loans their signature to another party. Not really. Accommodation party would be somebody who loans their name to another party. That would be your name, your estate, all that stuff. Basically, you'd be loaning property. It says read UCC 3-419. It tells you that the accommodation maker is and what an accommodation party is. When you loan your signature to them, they can then rewrite your signature on any document they want. That sounds like power of attorney, but okay. What the federal courts are doing is they are buying up these state court default judgments called criminal cases to cover up what cover up what they're doing. Actually, they are civil cases. That I probably agree with, because the civil cases, we always say that they need to go to civil cases first. They can't go to criminal cases because why? They never did have an indictment from any kind of grand jury. Why? Because they're lawyers. They don't have authority to do that. If you read Clerk's praxis, you find that what they call criminal is all civil. They just call it criminal to cover up what they're doing. You don't pay the debt, you go to prison, bottom line. I know, I've been there. Everybody is feeding off the prison system. All of the major corporations are feeding off the prison system. That we all agree with, okay? How many of you heard of REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust, or PZN, which is Prison Trust? Prisoners are real estate. They own all real estate because they hold the bonds on them. You haven't redeemed your bond, so they didn't close your account. Here's what goes on. The contractor comes in, or any corporation could come in and tender a bid bond to the U.S. District Court. And they buy up these court judgments, and anytime you issue a bid bond, there has to be a reinsure. So they get a reinsurance company to come in and act as surety for the bid bond. Then they bring in a performance bond. All these bonds, bid, payment, and performance, all are all surety bonds. And anytime you wish you issue a bid bond, it has a surety guaranteeing you're reinsuring the bid bond via issuing a performance bond. When they get an underwriter, underwriter deals with chain of title to the bond, and that would be either an investment broker or an investment banker. So what they're doing is they're checking to see whether there's no messed up anything on the there's no clouds on that on the title of that bond before they get into it. They claim they come in and the underwriter performance bond, which is reinsuring the bid bond. Reinsuring mean chain of title. What does the underwriter do with a performance bond? The underwriter takes the three bonds and pools them and creates what is known as a mortgage-backed securities. When you pool these mortgage-backed securities, they're called bonds, and they're sold to a company called TBA, which is a bond market association. This is an actual corporation. These converted bonds, now MBS, are investment securities and being sold on the international level. CCA is one of the tickers on the New York Stock Exchange. Others include CWX, CWD, and CWG. When it goes to Frankfurt, CWG. When it goes to Berlin, CWD, and so on. Remember, everything is commercial. 7211, 7 CFR says all crimes are commercial. If you read that carefully, it says kidnapping, robbery, extortion, murder, etc. are all commercial crimes. Thus, you are funding the whole enchilada simply because you go into default judgment when you went into court and failed to redeem the bond. This is why people don't win into court. This is because they don't redeem the bond. You are the principal upon which all money circulates. But you don't want to start arguing with the court about that. So basically what it is, you borrow it into existence. Pretty messed up, isn't it? They're drafting you for performance. So anytime the court asks you to do something, they are drafting you for performance. And if you don't perform, that's what they call the performance bond, you get into dishonor and non-acceptance. They're making a formal presentation under 3-501 of the UCC. So they can charge you with what charge you, and they use the word charge. They use the same commercial words on your indictment, information, complaint. They use the word charge, i.e. the following charges. He has 2 counts of charges, etc. Be as gentle as a dove and wise as a serpent. You can't act like an insurgent or belligerent. If you do, they will treat you like one. They'll beat you up. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It says, what do you do to settle the account? Go to full settlement and closure. You're running the account. You are the fiduciary trustee over the account. Tell them what to do. You're the principal and owner of the account. Tell them what to do. Tell them you want full settlement and closure of the account. You have to do this from the get-go. Okay. The rest of this was uh, in order to win in court, you have to redeem the bond and the conditional acceptance and all that. Don't really believe in that remedy. We've seen that remedy before. It's never ever worked. Have you noticed that, John? I think there's a flaw in it. Let's put it that way.
Yes, it is. And when you try to do that, it gets too technical and too ticklish on it, because any flaw in it, it would bounce on you. It'll put you in jail. It may work, it may not, but I would say stay away from it.
Yeah, because it's just not. I don't know. It's just not. I don't think it's going to work. It's too much to remember. People get nervous, you know. So if you have an objection, you kind of have well, you have to have a remedy, right? Solution to the
Yep,
problem.
that's correct. So if you argue with them, you've created more controversy that you got to go back and cover. That's
Right.
why I
So
said it gets too technical for most people to understand it.
right. So you might want to go to reignoftheheavens.com and hit legal notices and read through this. We read what you got there, and you can read through what we've done here or what's being done. There's the links right there. You can look into it, and we offer classes on this. So you can do this to protect yourself from this fraud, because that's exactly what it is. It's nothing more than trafficking in persons. It's illegal as hell, and I mean nothing more than that. You're forcing a loan on somebody, and you're saying you're going to pay me, or I'm going to keep you in the cage. And it's more like, hey, I talked to you. So, that's how they're doing it. I talked to you, or I did this, or I did that. You've accepted a service of mine because you spoke to me. And now I'm going to make you get a loan and borrow money into existence so I can take it. That's all it is. It's a complete joke. And the people put up with it. Okay? If you got rid of crime, folks, in one county, if you got rid of crime, nobody actually just broke the law at all, they would make it to where people were breaking the law just so they could get you in that jail and sign these bonds and put money into that system and everything else. That is as dark and evil as it gets.
They had less crime when Al Capone and his boys and all the other mafia people were in charge. Now that the government's taken over, it's gotten worse and worse and worse.
The local, right.
Yeah.
I call them local monopolies.
Yep.
But yeah, so now when they took over, it was actually worse. Why? Because they were connected to the Vatican. And if you watch the last Godfather, it tells you right there, the Vatican was worse than the crime syndicate he was in before. It's worse. And people don't realize that. The reason why they came over and got trying to get away from it, it wasn't because they were trying to get away from religion. They were trying to get away from a criminal, dark, and I mean a dark criminal syndicate. And that was called the Vatican back then. They wanted away from that crap. It's like, these guys are just unbelievable. Unbelievably evil. And expect you to pay for them. They were, and still are, leeches. What has the Catholic Church done for anybody in this country? Really? What have they done? What do they produce that helps anyone? And if they had actually enhanced and or helped with people, that'd be different. But I don't think they do. I think they're pushing communism. They've gone to pure political crap. It's a problem. It's a major problem, and it's turned pretty dark, pretty evil. And this is going on in the courtrooms. And the bankers have got complete control over everything. The bankers have always been communists. That's why the whole country is moving towards that. Which, by the way, the rest of the world laughing their ass off, laughing at the whole stupid thing of what your White House is doing, saying, "Oh, we'll never have socialism." Yeah, you're right. We're going directly to communism. We're bypassing socialism and going directly to communism. That's what you're doing. So he didn't lie, technically. Technically, he said we're never going to be a socialist country. And he was right. But he didn't say anything about not being a communist country. And that's exactly where it's going. Okay? So, once again, I believe, and I'm seeing this in this direction because of his daughter and the way that they went, trying to partner with big tech to go after red flag laws. Now, red flag, folks, go look at the Chinese flag. Red flag laws. Put it together. Those are communist laws. Red flag laws. And they're selling it as if people are saying, well, why are you doing the red flag? As in, oh, it's a red flag. We put a red flag up. Stop. We got a problem here. That's what people think it is. Politically, red flag. Chinese, red flag. Okay? So put it together. There's two different ways you can look at that. I'm telling you, that's going directly to communism. So you're right. No one was going to socialism in this country. They went directly from capitalism to communism and bypassed socialism. And this Beto thing coming out saying, damn right, I'm coming to take your AR-15. I can't believe the guy said that, but he did. And I would imagine he blew the whole thing, or that was notice. I don't know which. So y'all want to go commie? Go for it. Doesn't last long. I've seen what it does. Doesn't last long. You're not going to be getting those new iPhones anytime soon, or this new this and new that, because all that stops. It's like time stops, guys. You're going to be wearing the same clothes. Your grandchildren are going to be wearing the same clothes you are. The clock stops in communism. I'm telling you. Go look at the Chinese and what's happened to them. Now they can't even go across the street. They don't even go to court anymore. They just if they jaywalk, by the time they get to their destination, $20 have been pulled out of their account for the fine for the $20, and your social credit score goes down, which means you can't shop in certain stores, and you can't get on trains, or you can't do this or can't do that. So good luck with that. Or you have an alternative. You can come through the government of the United States of America into the states of the Union. You can start go into the ANU. You can labor money into existence. We have also pledged that those people that had investments in the USD, we would replace that investment with continental dollars because those were labor backed, and you would lose absolutely nothing. Isn't that right, John?
That's the way we set it up.
Yep. So if you had all these investments and it crashes, we will redeem those investments. You just have to have proof of them. So make sure you have a portfolio. We know, and we will give you all that investment. And this government will issue that investment that you had over there into redeeming it here. Nope, no problems. You're not losing a thing. You're actually gaining. And it'll be the most steady economy that you've ever had. Nobody's bothering you about taxes. Nobody's going to sell your property if you don't pay them. Your property is secure. Your titles are secure. And it also is done in the voucher system that if you don't work or can't work, and people work for you or take care of you, that's your contribution to society, and you're compensated for that. How about that? In other words, those people that are looked upon as a drain on society, like old people that are in retirement, that can't actually take care of themselves anymore. Those people are gold now. Mentally challenged people, all those people are gold. They need to be taken care of, so they create jobs and create more money into the circulation. And you don't have to worry about title to your car. You don't have to worry about title to your land. It's all secure, no problems. Nobody's going to say, "Hey, you forgot to pay this," over here, and what do they say? "Oh, we're government. We're here to help." Okay, nobody does that. Nobody bothers you. Matter of fact, we get people that come over after they do a resident declaration expecting us to get a hold of them, and I don't know why, because I thought they wanted government out of their life. That's not what we're wanting. Matter of fact, they get all offended if you don't call them. So you want government in your life? Okay. I thought you wanted it out of your life, but that's all right. And that's basically it. So it's your choice, folks. It's basically your choice, because what we're saying here is it's not illegal. What we're saying is the U.S. doesn't have a government. It's a corporation, and bankers are running it. And they figured out a way to steal your future labor and everything else through their court systems under their amendment or 13th Amendment. But if you mentioned it, if you mention that Constitution, you mention anything in that courtroom like that, you go to jail. There's even a story, I believe, was coming from the PAGs that a judge says you're trying to climb a wet rope or something like that, a slippery rope. If you bring that in, they're communists, folks. That's the way they operate. So you got to clean your courthouses out. That's what we said a long time ago. Fire all of them. Get rid of them. Get them out of there. Go back to prior 1968 constitutions where your judicial department was turned into a judiciary. Go prior to that. Start over. What do we know, right? What do we know, John?
I don't know much of anything. I just kind of about halfway follow the law.
Anyway, we're trying to tell you, folks, that the remedies are there. It's right here in front of you, and there's a limited time in that window that it can survive. It's either you can either go choose light or you can choose darkness. That's you. You can either choose a good future for your children or not. And that's how we see it, as far as that's concerned. So anything else we need to put in here?
Nothing particular, really.
All right, we'll have the Continental Club up by next week.
Yeah. But the company did steal your property. Take it well, they claimed it. And then they turn back around and they rent it back to you. So if you don't pay the rent, which they call taxes, then they come in and take the whole thing.
Right, that's what they call the Lewis Cass Payshur formula.
Yeah.
Look that name up. That's what he used to do. He owned all the railroads in the country. Then I think they killed him in 1939. J.P. Morgan happened to be his trustee, and so did Rockefeller and all them, and they just stole all this property. And they did the same exact thing he did to everybody else. He would loan money, force the loan, and then foreclose on it, then lease the company back to you. That's what they did on your name.
Yeah. In fact, it was after the Civil War, he bought all the abandoned railroads in the United States.
That's right.
What was it, $400 or something like that?
Yes, that was the Civil War. What they did was during the Civil War, basically the Civil War was getting all of the railroads from the South. That's what it was all about. They wanted all the commerce, the railroads, and the electricity. So they came in and they auctioned uh, every railroad or all the whole electrical grid and all the railroads for $400 after the Civil War. It's amazing how they got that done. And the contract was is that you have to keep the electricity on. That's one of the part of the deal. That's why the electric companies have to fix electricity. If electricity goes down, if it's been if it goes down with ice or anything like that, that's why you see them out there first because they're under contract to have to do that all the way back from the Civil War. So they're compelled or they lose their contract. So anyway, all right, that should be it. Your choice, folks. If you want to use the Continental Dollar, all you can do is you can do a resident declaration, or you can basically just go in and register a foreign business here and open a bank account and start earning Continental Dollars. That will qualify you for the voucher system. You can start doing work for your next door neighbor. We've signed, or we have actually redeemed at least $4 million in vouchers so far from people doing work for others, and it works. That's how it's put in the system, and you can get rich fairly quickly because you yes the the wages you charge are regulated to a certain extent because we don't want somebody inflating the money by charging $8,000 to mow somebody else's lawn just so they can get $8,000. That is regulated to an extent. However, nobody's taking the money away from you. That's the whole thing. What money you've earned, it's yours. Thanks for listening to the 145th broadcast of the T Row Show. We will see you next week.